Okay, welcome back. So in the first segment, we got RhinoCam open, loaded some tools. Now we're ready to start preparing our file for machining. One of the first things you want to do before you go too far in making toolpaths is to make sure that your units in your Rhino model are in inches. RhinoCam can only generate toolpaths in inches and in millimeters. And all of our tools in our tool library are measured in inches. If you use any other unit of all of these units, feet and inches or anything else, architectural models, of course, might come in as feet and inches, so make sure that the units are correct. Because if you have a foot and inches model and you spend hours making toolpaths and then try to export them, RhinoCam is going to crash. So check your units, very important. Once you get that done and you verify that your units are correct, you can start prepping your file for making toolpaths. One of the first things you want to do is sort of get rid of extraneous information, because the stuff that I'm not going to machine is going to sort of interfere with making the toolpaths. Of course, you could select only the portions that you want to machine and put them in a file of their own. You could invert that view to get everything else back. However, if you're toggling to invert and hide, they're going to come back. So the easiest thing to do is just select everything that you don't want to machine and put it onto a layer that you can hide. So, good idea probably to name these layers so that you know what is where. Also, go ahead and move these off of the origin of Rhino so that they're just kind of out of the way. Alright, since you're changing layers, you can also go ahead and select various portions of your model and put those on layers of their own as well. That'll be the bottom of our mold. Which will make that the top of our mold. This just makes everything easier down the line. It does take a little bit of time. You can do this, as you're producing these parts. Or after you're done. So now, just by hiding each layer, I can isolate these down to just the part I'm working on at any given time. Once you get the layers set up, if you're doing that, you then want to orient your parts to Rhino's 000, which corresponds with the router's 000. You can do this in RhinoCam, but I find, and most of us find, that it is easier and slightly more logical, easier to keep track of if you do it in your model rather than trying to do it with RhinoCam. So now both of these parts are at 000. You want the bottom of your part should be at Z0, not the top of your part at Z0. You want the Y-axis, which is the long axis of the CNC router, along the left-hand side of your part, and the X-axis, the red axis, along the front of your part. So, situated as they will be on the CNC router. In this case, we're going to be using a fixture to hold these parts onto the router bed. So we're going to add the thickness of that fixture, which is going to be 3/4 inch plywood, directly to the model so that the top of this mold part is exactly where it's going to be in the router. And while I'm at that, I can also just add a box that represents the fixture itself, just so that everything is sort of obvious what I see is what I get. Alright, so once you get all your parts arranged and situated as you want them and layers hidden and whatnot, you can move on to making a stock box. A stock box can be made here or right here in your machining job. Doesn't really matter which way you do it. You can also make cylinder stocks. You can draw a shape in your Rhino model and use that to become your stock box, but it isn't something that you're machining. So if you have an unusual shape or if you're stacking up layers of topography, that would be stock from selection. In this case, we're just going to make a standard stock box. Hit it, generates a new sort of virtual block. The default function of this is going to be to copy the XYZ extents of what is visible in your current Rhino model. That is generally okay. However, you want to double check the XYZ coordinates and make sure they're on 0, 0, 0. And you usually want to check this height. And in this case, our plaster block is going to be 3.5 inches tall. So we'll be machining about a 1/4 inch off of the top of that block before we do anything else. Hit OK. Along the bottom of the machine operations browser, we have visibility tabs where you can turn on your stock box. Again, your material, which makes it look very funky in many cases. So generally we don't use that toggle all that often. And toolpaths once you get toolpaths.